When you are building apps for cloud, sooner or later you will find this gem called Kafka. It is used in multiple places. It is used as a distributed log, it is used as an eventing service, notification service, and you can use it for multiple purposes. Now, when you are building application using Spring, integrating Kafka into that ecosystem is very easy. So let's see how we can integrate Kafka within our application that we have been writing. The very first thing that we need to figure out is have couple of properties defined in our application properties file. These properties are related to Kafka. So first is spring dot Kafka dot bootstrap servers. Now you can define your server name. For testing purposes, I am going to run it on my local host. So this is the setting. The default port is 9092, and then we need to define a consumer group. So once we have defined these two properties, we need to go and add POM dependency for Kafka. So let's go ahead and do that. The first dependency that we need is spring-Kafka. And the second one that we need is Kafka clients. So now that we have added these two settings, let's do a Maven reload. As I said earlier, sometimes this reload doesn't seem to work. Now first thing that we need to define is a listener. A listener is nothing but an object that will receive messages, and Kafka messages are grouped into what we call topics. So we can define a listener for each topic, or we can define a listener that takes care of multiple topics. So right now let's create a new package called listeners. And in that, let's define a Java class. Let's call it tutorial topic Kafka listener. Now this class needs to be annotated with component because it's a Spring component, and then within that we define a function which is going to handle the message that comes in, and for now we can just add this library called Lombok, and in the next video we will try to understand what Lombok is all about. Right now I am just going to add Lombok within my project, and I am going to use it to add a listener into my project, to a logger. Basically I want to use a logger, so I am just going to use Lombok annotation to do that. So once we have this annotation, we will automatically have this logger available with the name log, and we can print a string and with that we can print the content of the message. So if we look at it, this is our very simple listener class. We have this. Now how do we say that what it is listening on? And for that there is an annotation defined, Kafka listener, and within that we can say topics equal to, and let us say our topic name is tutorial topic. So now we have said that this, whenever a message is available on tutorial topic, it should be processed using this particular annotation. Now similar to that, we will just to send the message, let us define an endpoint so that we can use that endpoint to send a message to ourselves. So let us go to the endpoint and we say new Java class tutorial topic message sender endpoint. We annotate it as a REST controller, and then let us do a request mob mapping, and let us call it Kafka. So the path will be Kafka. Now we need to auto wire a Kafka template. Now we need to define a method that is going to send the message. It's a request body, and then we define a POJO that will contain message. So let us call it tutorial message. We have to define this class, and now within this we can use Kafka template to send this message. Our topic, we had used the topic in the listener, so let us put it in some kind of a utility class. So let us call it let us create a Java class called tutorial constants, and within that class So, this is the variable that we have defined. Now, let us just go and put it in listener as well. And now we will use the same value within the sender endpoint. And let us say we say message.toString, and this is how we sent it, and we will use the same lombok for defining a logger so that we can log a message. So, now let us go ahead and define this class. So, let us go into Pojos, and within this class let us have just one private string message, and again we will use a lombok annotation called data that will automatically bring getter, setter, to string, etc. So, now we can go ahead and so we added to string here. And from here we can return now. The same question comes here. So, first thing is we need to have the REST endpoint annotations which are related to request mapping, and the method is going to be post, and it produces application.json. So, let us just return message here. Tutorial message. And we can annotate it with pre-authorize, and actually we can just use the annotation that we had defined for authenticated things. So, that is authenticated user or admin. So, we did that, and now we have to just test it. Before testing it, let us revert the container changes that we did in the previous video. So, the tutorial MySQL, we will change it to localhost again, and similarly tutorial Postgres, we will change it to localhost again. So, now let us run it and see what happens. So it's not able to connect, so we have to start Kafka. So I will just start Kafka here. Yeah, so see, now finally it has started, it has connected to Kafka. Now we can run our Postman again. First let's see if our server is running. So we send the request, yeah, it's running. So now our endpoint, let's change this to post. The URL we change to Kafka, and we go to the body, and the body was just message within it. So we send a message, this is my message, and let's send it. Okay, right now it's saying Kafka is not, oh, this has to be 8080, I am using 1991. So right now the message is null. Yeah, so the field was not message, it was MSG. So let's check MSG and we send it again. So we get the same message back. Now let's see whether the consumer got it or not. So if you see, this message is being printed by the listener, which says received message. Let me just make it bigger. We run it again. So now let's send the message again. So this is my message too. We send it, and now let's look at our log. See, this is the message that is received. This is my message too. So clearly the producer sends the message and receiver receives it. So the basic Kafka is up and running, and now here it does not need to be in the same server. Right now for testing we have made it in the same server. In theory you could have it's totally separate. So for example, I could use, there is a command line consumer that Kafka provides. So for example, if you see, we could have a command line consumer that is provided by Kafka console consumer, and we have to provide bootstrap server. And our topic was, let me just check, tutorial message. It was not tutorial message, it was, I forgot. let's see, here it would be printed. Let's look in the constant file. The constant file was tutorial constants and the topic was tutorial topic. So we change the consumer to tutorial topic. So now you can see it is now listening for those messages. Now if we send this endpoint, if we send a request over this endpoint, it will go to our server, which will publish onto the Kafka, and this guy should receive it. So we send it, the message went, and see here we got the message. So the producer and consumers can be anywhere till the time they are connecting to the same Kafka instance or the same Kafka cluster. You will be able to exchange the messages. So that is the basics of Kafka. Now you could have multiple consumers and multiple producers, and we will cover all that in the next video. For now, I think this is the good foundation of just making sure the basic Kafka works and you have connectivity established. So now with that, I am going to close this video. If you liked it, please subscribe, hit the notification bell icon so that you know when the new videos are uploaded. Share it with your friends, and with that, thank you for watching this video. See you in the next video. Bye bye. Peace.